My topic today is advancing net zero in countryside conservation. Every one of us agree that there is an imbalance of attention and utilization between urban and rural environment. Today, I'll talk about why we talk about countryside conservation, how it's related to the zero carbon journey, and what means are we using in pursuing countryside conservation, and what we can show as a means to create some social impact through our journey and the way forward. More and more people talk about countryside now around the world. Maybe you have heard of Ram Krauss, a famous architect and urbanist. He wrote a book, Countryside, a Report. And he also staged a one-year-long exhibition in New York's Guggenheim Museum. The title is Countryside, the Future, portraying various uses countryside can provide us for our future. In Japan, the concept of Satoyama also brings us back to the notion of how human lives together with nature in harmony. On the one hand, making use of the nature for production for life, and on the other hand, conserve the countryside's ecology. In our country, in 2018, there was an important policy document, the #1 document talking about village revitalization, bringing us back to the forgotten villages. In Hong Kong, we have a lot of beautiful remote villages in our countryside. They're rich in architectural environment, ecology, and cultural resources. But since the 60s and 70s, the villages have moved out gradually for life, because in those remote villages, there's lack of support, lack of chances to make living. Leaving these villages abandoned, buildings turned into ruins. And of course, culture is fading. Not only that, biodiversity is also degrading, because the biodiversity-rich areas around the wet terrace farming around the village are now overtaken by invasive vegetation. You can look at these two comparisons of aerial photo of Lai Chi Wo 50 years apart. Recently, there are some refarming around Lai Chi Wo, and there is obvious improvement in biodiversity. So, in 2017, the first policy address of the last government announced that a countryside conservation office, that is my office, is to be set up to coordinate conservation projects that promote sustainable development of remote countryside, and has earmarked $1 billion for such conservation efforts and revitalization works. As a priority, Lai Chi Wo and Tung are taken as the first batch of our work to concentrate on countryside revitalization and ecological conservation. And we'll extend further with our experience in these two areas. In fact, we have already started. Our work approach is three-pronged. One is assess. We have to know what is being done, what philosophy or practice are around the world worth our reference, and then we innovate new solutions if there were not any progress in certain areas. Then we act. We facilitate others who are working on this aspect. We work on small improvement projects ourselves, and we also provide funding to those people who like to work with us and with the villagers as a collaborative effort. And then with our experience, our belief, then we advocate. We tell people what we know. We share the value with them, get more people along our journey to get a bigger force towards that goal. For example, we make use of funding scheme, countryside conservation funding scheme, to support the non-profit organizations in various conservation efforts. And up to now, about 3 years, we have already supported 33 projects amounting to 165 million, as shown in this map, mostly in the remote villages in the northern part of Hong Kong, covering research, village revitalization, ecological conservation, etc. One example is a recent example on a feasibility study and pilot scheme for water bus for inter-village and coastal eco-tour service for Lai Chi Wo and nearby villages. Through several months that this scheme has launched, we already see a trend that people like this ferry service, which makes travel to Lai Chi Wo easier, not only on weekends, but also on weekdays, Tuesday and Thursday. And economically, it can balance itself without government funding even. So it's a successful experiment. But without our funding, people can't start this kind of research. But even with that water bus going to Lai Chi Wo, a remote village, it takes you 3 hours back and forth from city. So it's very natural for everybody to expect a more relaxed pace when you go to Lai Chi Wo or the remote villages, sit down, take a drink, take some food, or even stay overnight to look at the star in the night, to look at the sunrise in the morning. But I can tell you, it's very difficult to find a licensed guest house or restaurant around. That means there's no guarantee on the safety, hygiene, and health when you consume the service over there. So, what can we do? Why is it? We did a study in Lai Chi Wo to look at where are the potential operators. In fact, there are some operating restaurants, but without license. The standard is not good. So we look at them and try to find out the reason. Earlier last year, I went with KS and the former CE to visit Lai Chi Wo and understand why is it so difficult to find licensed operators in those villages. As the villages were built long time ago, several hundred years ago, they are traditional small houses with small windows to prevent robbers. they can't fulfill the current building standard. So we try to do some negotiation with our licensing authorities, and then eventually, after over years, facilitation, coordination, all the 11 houses are licensed as authorized guest houses in Lai Chi Wo, making something not possible in the past being possible. For example, there is a movie still on show in cinemas, was on show in Lai Chi Wo's piazza, attracting over 100 audience who can stay overnight in licensed guest house there or camping around. Apart from that, we also do some minor works. For example, we do a ramp next to steps to facilitate wheel trucks or wheel trolleys to carry heavy goods up the hill instead of carrying on the shoulder to make life easier for the villagers. We also improve the sewage and drainage, avoid flooding. And how do we create social impact through our countryside work to bring people back? And at the same time, we like to achieve carbon neutrality, but something draws you back. Maybe when you think of the toilets, smelly, dirty, you can't find a decent one. When we talk about carbon neutrality, does it mean a dull look, uncomfortable? So we did something. We are building a new public toilet near Lai Chi Wo Pier. Here I show you a short video. MIC again. So with renew, recycle, reduce, and reuse, and with 40% reduction in embodied carbon, 100% carbon emission offset during operation, we can achieve advancing net zero standard set by World Green Building Council. And hopefully by early next year, this will be the first Hong Kong's advancing net zero building. And this is only version 1 of our countryside toilet. Hopefully it can change people's mindset on countryside. And we can explore further, expand further, encourage more people to collaborate with us and work together. Let's work together for a better world. Thank you.